do not have a general music teacher. What I would request is that we take the .5 chorus position and increase that to a 1.0 position. So that person would teach chorus and also general music, music appreciation, music history. And by doing those two additions, study halls, for the most part, would be eliminated. There's one more area that I just want to speak about, but for the most part, that would eliminate the study halls. And it would be covered, the salaries of those teachers would be covered in the restructuring of the, going from 12 teachers to 10 teachers. The other area that I would like to just point out is students have physical education health 3 times a week. Opposite, or 3 times in a 6-day cycle, opposite the physical education and health, they have a study hall. All students do, unless they take band or chorus. What I would propose is that we change that block to a flex time, a flexible learning time. It would be similar to Power Block, but at the high school, but on a middle school level. That flex time would be for individual learning needs. It would be a time when kids who are interested in band and chorus could go and explore their music. Kids who need extra individual learning time, resource room, learning center time, that's when they would get that time. Students who were, just exploding with the curriculum could get some enrichment time, some extra time, because I truly feel that's an area we need to focus on, is engaging our learners who are, are just wanting more and more. It could be a time for current events, it could be a time for library and media skills, it could be a time for any sort of community service projects like peer leaders. I've been talking with the Rotary Club about an early ACT club starting at the middle school, which would be a baby step to the Interact club that they have at the high school. So taking those two additions, taking the robotics and the music, combine that with the flex time, no longer study hall in the cafeteria with 50 students, they would be on team, and they would get the learning that they need based on their individual desires, what they most need. So that would be my proposal, and it really wouldn't financially cost money for the salaries because of the restructuring.
And before we move to questions, I'd just like to say that also I would like to recommend that based on the proposal that was also given to you under the budget vision for technology integration, that we would add, it's a little different than what had been proposed to you. What had been proposed was to hire a .5 technician and 2.5 instructional technology support specialists for a total of $70,000. I am suggesting that that be amended to add a 1.0 technology technician based on available funds. So we'd hold that in abeyance until we move forward and take a look at what comes out for circuit breaker. But I'm just putting that forward, that I would like to bring on a technology technician for next year as well. It still follows along with our strategic budget vision, but it's just altered a little bit, and I'd bring forward technology integration specialists next year. So, out of the 5 proposals that had been brought forward to you under the strategic budget vision, we've just made a presentation on funding 4 out of those 5 without changing the bottom line of the budget and taking a look at restructuring programs and services that are currently in place. Comments, questions, concerns?
Questions?
To me, the only concern would be the class size. I mean, as long as you're not worried about that, I think it's a good proposal.
Do you have a range, Kathy?
Yeah, I have a range. So I had said 19 to 20. That's really low at middle level.
Yeah.
That's really low. And it would range because in the 7th grade we level students, so it's hard to give you an exact amount. I can't just divide the number of students by 10. It would range between 22 and 27. I do not anticipate many classes of 27. I think probably 20, 23, 24, which I believe is a very healthy number.
Sounds like a plan.
This is great. This definitely meets a key constituent need that's been voiced to us many times about,
Yes.
Kids in study halls and lacking opportunities, and I really like the flexible restructuring option that you've put together. I think that will really, promote learning and for kids who want to use that time in that way. So I'm really pleased with this. Thank you for putting it together.
It's very exciting.
Yeah.
I
So-
think this is great as an understatement. It's awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty
Great
awesome.
job.
I think it's great. I will ask, however, that we keep an eye on that 27 class size. I'd be concerned if we had too many of those. I know you'll try to not do that. The other question I had was that flex learning time period. That's not replacing health or phys ed. That's replacing the block that's opposite.
Correct.
The kids who aren't taking phys ed or health at that time would normally
Correct.
be in a study, and now they'll have the flex.
Correct,
Okay.
exactly. And then they can use that time as best meets their individual needs.
I think the study halls, I've been on this committee for 9 years, and we've tried. They've been the bane of, I think, our existence here for a long time, and
That's
I think,
one of the things you hear about when you're outside the
right.
meeting, yeah.
So I hardly endorse this. Cliff, any?
I think it's good. Sounds like a real good plan.
Sounds like a great plan to me.
I can't wait to see it publicized.
Yeah, exactly. This is awesome. So thanks for all the work that you and superintendent and I'm sure the administrative committee put into this. Because in order to move things around, one person can't just do it and say, this is what I want to do. It requires the cooperation of everybody. So this is great.
Thank you. Thank you, Kathy.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
We take a vote on that, Mel?
Do we have to vote on that, or?
It's a budget matter, but I don't know that it
Doesn't-
requires a vote.
An endorsement,
I don't,
$0. I don't think so.
nothing changes to the bottom line.
Bottom
of the
line budget stays the
I
same.
don't think we need to
Right.
take a vote. There's no precedent for it.
I just think it's awesome that we can do this, and
I know.
especially add
a great
more
idea.
robotics courses, get more technology support.
That's good.
Actually, like to see
Science
one.
program.
Adding good stuff for no money, exactly.
Maybe
Good
work
stuff
with
cheap,
some of the
right?
technicians
Good stuff
to teach
cheap.
kids
As
how to
Building
replace
19 would say.
computers and things
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
Michael
Great.
just mentioned, if I may.
Yep.
Mr. Chair, he'd like to also see some programming or technical support for what's taking place as we grow our technology program. Some of that training take place during that flex time, and Kathy really didn't have a chance to talk a lot about it, but and when you think about the middle school philosophy and the middle school program, very often there is a flex time that's built in. It's called many things, but most often it's called flex time, and lots of times it's grouped around the lunch period, similar to the power block that we currently have in the high school. And this is where all of those activities that Kathy spoke about took place, but it's also a time when we move further down the road, and you'll hear more about this next year, when we think about supporting our students at risk, not students on IEPs, but students that need a little extra support. That's when a lot of those small groups take place. It's also the time where we provide enrichment for those advanced learners. So this is giving us some more flexible time to use our time wisely to support all levels of learners in a middle school and beyond. So it's really continuing to move the middle school in the direction of the middle school philosophy so that it's firmly in place.
Great, thanks. Next, we have the school committee, 2011-2012 school committee self-evaluation results. And I'm gonna turn this over to Ms. Ericetti.
Since she's quitting, it would be appropriate that she present this.
Yes, exactly. Since she's
I
quitting the
think
self-evaluation committee.
Quitting is a
no,
strong word. I
you're
voluntarily gave it up
transferring.
in order to provide opportunities for others.
You're transferring to the
Quitting.
sports
Yeah,
athletic subcommittee.
That was
I know.
poor choice of
Yeah.
very.
She's transferring.
That was intentional.
So, the evaluation subcommittee, which is Cliff and myself, compiled the self-evaluation results based on the feedback that you shared with me. Thank you for doing that. And over the course of several hours, I averaged your ratings and put in your comments. And Cliff and the superintendent have had a chance to de-identify this document slightly, although I'll remind the committee that their answers are public information and can be made available to the public. So the purpose of our discussion today is to review this and with an eye toward setting the stage out, I guess, for our goal setting, which is a workshop we'll have in the summer. I hesitate to point out highlights because I know you've all had a chance to look at this, wink wink, over the weekend, and Cliff and I both decided in concert with the superintendent that we would not make any recommendations until the committee had a chance to have an open discussion about these ratings. So I'll open the floor for comments with asking for some feedback. What did you think of this process? I think we are also looking for some adjustments to this particular tool and how you felt it worked this time around, or didn't work.
Anybody in the committee?
I think that area, there's a couple of areas where we're still struggling to make it fit our, having enough data to do an evaluation, or enough information to do an evaluation. And obviously, things like engaging in professional development, and there were a few areas where, the curriculum and instruction area in particular, I think that our input into that is hard to evaluate at this point in time, because I'm not sure how involved we are in it. The more I look at this, and I don't like these kind of things, but the more I look at it, I think the better it works, actually. And I think you guys did a good job in revising it the way you did. It was a little easier to fill out. But those areas, and particularly dealing with curriculum instruction, and those types of areas, I still think it's difficult to evaluate ourselves. And what's the other area? Oh, the other thing too was on either training or for the school committee itself. I think that we haven't really done much as far as in-service training or orientation or anything like that for sitting school committee members. And since we don't have any new school committee members, it's not like we have to do an orientation, but that's another area that I thought we could use some help on.
Great, thanks, Jerry.
Anyone else?
I'm not sure about our role with the educational piece of
Mm,
that.
that's I struggle with that.
I mean, I think when we sat down and did that whole, about the orientation program, there wasn't really much discussion there about what our role is, and
It seems like we should have more, more
I mean,
input
is
into
it our
that
role?
area.
Is it not? We should identify it before we go into the summer session, and if it is, then we need to work on that, because we're definitely lacking there.
Could you just put some context around what you're talking about? When you say I'm assuming you're referring to educational program.
The
Yes.
educational program piece.
So how do you define that? When you were reading through this, how did you define that and assess it?
I'll tell you what, one of them is maintains policies to address curriculum and instruction
Yes.
to sustain student achievement.
That's what I'm looking at.
I struggle with how we do that.
Yep, me too.
I mean, can you say a policy, a behavioral policy is a policy that
Student achievement.
helps student achievement? I guess you could, but I think that's kind of on a broader scope, that we don't specifically create or maintain policy that says the teacher has to teach the student to do X. So I guess maybe it's the way we're reading it, or maybe it's the way,
It demonstrates high levels of collaboration with superintendent to establish excellence in
Right, that was another
curriculum
one.
and instruction.
yeah, that's another one.
Don't we do any of that?
Yeah,
at all.
I agree. I don't think we do any of that either. And I don't know if we're supposed to.
But I mean, I know that's an area I struggled with the last time we did this and this time as well.
Do you have any comments on
Well,
that?
yeah, I think what we just did fits a little bit into this realm, where we listened to what the program was. Now, this was oriented a little toward budget, but at the same time, it's involving curriculum. And we're not in the middle of developing that, but we are,
We
in
didn't even
fact-
take a vote on it.
No, we didn't take a vote on it.
We didn't need to.
But we are involved in it from the standpoint of providing an oversight to it.
And some input.
Maybe we ought to be
Well,
having
it
changes
was a
to
high level of
provide an
oversight. We really didn't understand the financial piece. I mean, I understand it's a zero bottom dollar, but if someone was to ask me out on the street, well, how did we come up with a 0.5 here and a 0.4 there?
I have no
I
idea.
said, I don't know. We just said it was zero bottom dollar.
Well, I
So,
think
and that, I'm not blaming anybody on this. Is it our role to understand it that depth, or is it, are we just going ahead and saying, hey, if it doesn't impact the budget, we're fine? That type,
Well, and I think I have trouble with the word collaboration, because I don't see us collaborating with administrators,
Right.
the administrative council, or the superintendent. I see us, as Cliff said, hearing it. If we have to vote approving or disapproving of it, or if we don't have to vote saying that's a great idea, we don't think that's a great idea. So maybe it's the collaboration. What do you
Right.
think, Kathy?
What I think is every single policy that you approve has an impact on student achievement. They are broad and they are big picture, but they govern everything that we do. And before we make a decision as a